Hello and welcome back to Organized Chaos. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about something that affects every entrepreneur but rarely gets discussed openly, and that's the mental toll of entrepreneurship. After working with hundreds of entrepreneurs throughout my career, plus experiencing entrepreneurship myself, I've seen how this journey can impact founders both personally and professionally. Let me start by addressing the elephant in the room. Entrepreneurship isn't the glamorous journey that social media often portrays it to be. It's filled with intense challenges, difficult decisions, and sometimes overwhelming pressures that can affect every aspect of your life. While everyone loves sharing their success stories, very few talk about the sleepless nights, the anxiety, or the strain on personal relationships. Before we dive deeper, let me share something striking. Renowned psychiatrist Michael A. Freeman, in his famous 2015 study titled Are Entrepreneurs Touched with Fire?, found that 72% of entrepreneurs report mental health concerns such as depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, addiction, and ADHD. You'll find a link to the full PDF report in the show notes. I'm not bringing this up to discourage anyone and say that entrepreneurship is not healthy, but rather to normalize the struggles that come with building a business and encourage more open conversations about mental health in entrepreneurship, which is something that I don't think happens enough. Let's start by addressing the reality of starting a business. It's a massive decision that comes with significant risk. And while we all dream about the astronomical reward in the future, the path to success is far from straightforward. I remember when I first started my entrepreneurial journey. The initial excitement was intoxicating, but it quickly got overshadowed by the constant pressure of decision making and the weight of responsibility. For the first 2 years of my entrepreneurial journey, I frequently found myself close to running out of money. That meant being unable to pay bills, make payroll, or even pay myself. I cannot count the number of times that I came within days of missing a major payment. I combined that with an average of 70 working hours per week for more than a decade and barely taking any vacation during that period. This is not an uncommon picture in the entrepreneurial world, especially for solo founders. Several years ago, I was talking to a founder who broke down in tears during our conversation. She had been running her company for 3 years, and while it was going successfully, she felt completely isolated. She hadn't taken a vacation in years, missed countless personal commitments because of client deliverables, and couldn't remember the last time she had a full weekend off. This is the reality that many entrepreneurs face. The success of their business often comes at the cost of their personal lives because of how high the stakes are. So the 9 to 5 entrepreneur concept is somewhat of a myth, at least to me and the hundreds of entrepreneurs I've worked with over the years. That concept simply doesn't exist because it's not practically possible. If you run a bootstrap business, then you're trying to keep your head above water and making very stressful decisions that could impact your company's ability to survive. If you run a VC-backed business, then you're under a tremendous amount of pressure to meet your business growth metrics. Fail, and you could lose your business, be ousted, or both. The stories you'll find on the internet about people who just quit their job overnight and build a multi-million dollar business within a few years while working 40-hour weeks or less often leave out crucial details. Many entrepreneurs who achieve this fairy tale outcome don't mention the inherited wealth, the spouse that supported their household expenses during their first couple of years, or the substantial savings that provided them with a safety net. There's nothing wrong with being successful this way, but I get really annoyed by people who post these stories online, and on social media without the proper context. It's a misleading viewpoint on what most entrepreneurs actually go through. I've worked with several successful entrepreneurs who were privileged enough to weather the storms of early stage startups. That doesn't take anything away from their success, but it does soften the mental toll that entrepreneurship takes when you have a safety net to fall back on. The reality is vastly different when your ability to put food on the table depends entirely on the success of your business. Entrepreneurs without financial privilege are particularly vulnerable. According to a 2018 Harvard Business Review article, not having a financial safety net is one of the factors that puts entrepreneurs at a higher risk of burnout. Entrepreneurs that don't have a safety net feel compelled to do more and work longer hours because they know that failing to hit business milestones can put them out of business or out on the street. As you can imagine, the impact of entrepreneurship on personal life is profound. And I've seen this play out countless times. Social relationships often take a hit. You miss family events, lose touch with friends, and sometimes strain romantic relationships. I'll give you a few snippets from my life as an entrepreneur. From 2009 to 2019, I only took 4 vacations that averaged 1 week in duration. I didn't do it because I wanted to, but because I had a lot of responsibilities that required me to work that much. There's also another issue that entrepreneurs don't like to admit, myself included. Their passion for the work they do often turns into an obsession. It becomes very hard to stop. The adrenaline rush you get as an entrepreneur from making a breakthrough in your business, landing a massive deal, cracking a huge problem, or avoiding a near catastrophic miss are very addictive. And that's what leads most entrepreneurs down the path of burnout. Speaking of burnout, I want to talk about prevention. The key is recognizing your breaking points before you hit them. This means being brutally honest with yourself about your capacity and limitations. This is something I had a hard time with during the early stages of my entrepreneurial journey. I've developed a practical approach that I call the energy audit. Every 3 to 6 months, I assess which activities are draining my energy versus energizing me. And then I make strategic decisions about what to delegate and what to outsource. Here's how you can do it in 5 steps. 1, track your activities for a couple of weeks and write down everything you do. 2, rate each activity on an energy scale from -5, which is extremely draining, to +5, which is extremely energizing. And feel free to fill in the gaps in between with whatever descriptors make sense to you. Number 3, turn your attention to the work you've scored towards the top and the bottom of your scale, and identify the patterns in what depletes and what energizes you. You are going to find some common themes in the things that you like doing that energize you versus the things that you don't like doing and actually drain you. Number 4, create an action plan to delegate or minimize the draining activities. And finally, number 5, schedule more energizing activities into your routine and try to get rid of all the stuff that actually drains you. Another thing I keep an eye out for is my productivity. If I know that it usually takes me 1 hour to write a blog post, but all of a sudden I'm spending 2 to 3 hours doing the same task, then that's a sign that my brain is fatigued and I need to disconnect. For the past couple of years, I've stopped working on weekends and will occasionally do some low effort energizing work if I feel like it. Something else I've realized from working with so many entrepreneurs is that burnout isn't necessarily the result of long working hours. It's mainly due to the wide range of responsibilities, decisions, and risks that entrepreneurs are dealing with every single day. Some of these things you can control, but the easiest way to minimize the possibility of burnout is to delegate work. Having co-founders can also help here because it allows entrepreneurs to spread the load amongst one another. Co-founders tend to be close-knit and trust each other, so spreading important decisions and work between themselves generally doesn't induce anxiety and fear that they'll drop the ball. Delegation is crucial, but I know it's easier said than done. Many entrepreneurs struggle with letting go of control. I personally went through that same struggle early on in my journey. This is a common occurrence when entrepreneurs delegate work to employees, and I speak to that at length in episode 17, where I discuss the essential leadership transitions that founders need to make over time. So I highly recommend you check that one out. But here's the reality. Not delegating tasks only means that your workload will continue to grow as a founder, and it could be costing your business major growth potential. Just imagine what delegating 5 hours of your weekly routine could mean for your mental health and even your company's trajectory. I still remember the first time I outsourced work to a freelancer before I even made any full-time hires. It felt like a massive weight was lifted off my shoulders, and it really started to allow me to regain my focus and do things that move the business forward. Entrepreneurs are also at risk of experiencing health and well-being setbacks if they are not careful. Stress related illnesses are common in entrepreneurs. I saw a statistic recently, but really can't remember the source. It said that founders who don't create effective boundaries around work are 60% more likely to develop chronic health conditions. Not surprising, right? Unfortunately, the always on culture glorified among startups often makes this worse. I can tell you from experience that burning the midnight oil is a classic case of diminishing returns. Almost all of the entrepreneurs I've worked with are conscious of this, but they simply can't help themselves. It took me 10 years to learn how to disconnect myself from work, even when I'm not working. If you are an entrepreneur or someone who has entrepreneurs in their life, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Getting entrepreneurs to stop thinking about their business is easier said than done. It happens when you're out with family and friends, when you're reading a book, watching a movie, or even taking a shower. Switching your brain off from work takes effort and practice. It generally gets better over time as the business grows and starts experiencing some success. The solution isn't working harder, it's working smarter. I know this is a cliche statement that everyone has heard 100 times before, but here's how I've gotten better at this over the years. First, I start by setting clear boundaries around my total number of working hours. Today, I just stop working at a specific hour in the day, regardless of my progress. If I don't finish a task I intended on finishing, then I just reschedule it based on its importance and my availability. The only time I'll consider making an exception is if I'm dealing with a time sensitive issue that has massive ramifications that impact me, my business, or my customers. Everything else can wait. Second, I've established a regular exercise routine, which took me a while to nail down. For most of my life pre entrepreneurship, I used to exercise in the late afternoon. But I was so tired and drained when I became an entrepreneur that I didn't have the energy to exercise after work. I experimented with different types of exercise and time windows. I found myself enjoying combat sports the most, and that is the only type of exercise that I don't drop out of after a few months. Consistency was my other challenge. So, after years of experimentation, I found that the 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. window was my sweet spot. That time window allows me to exercise 3 times a week before most people wake up. And by the time I'm back home and ready to start my day, it's not even 8 a.m. yet. So I advise every entrepreneur to experiment with this and identify the type of exercise and time window that works best for their lives and gives them the best chance of remaining consistent with their regimen. Third, I prioritize high quality sleep. Throughout my 20s, I sleep anywhere from 4 to 6 hours while working the insane work weeks that I was speaking about earlier. As you can imagine, I wasn't always at peak performance and would have the occasional crashes from physical and mental fatigue. I also made some very bad decisions at times because I wasn't at my best. Sleeping at a decent hour and getting enough sleep to make me comfortable have worked wonders for me on all fronts. I'm more energetic, productive, and creative, and I'm able to get stuff done in much less time. And finally, I've slowly built a support network of other entrepreneurs, which includes some of my current and previous clients, as well as other entrepreneurs I've met over the years. I can't begin to tell you how valuable that has been for me. Entrepreneurship is something you can never understand unless you've experienced it. So, having a network of people around you who can relate to your experiences and share some genuine insights can help you tremendously on a personal and professional level. But entrepreneurship can also be incredibly rewarding when approached with the right mindset and systems. The key is understanding that success isn't just about financial metrics. It's about building something sustainable while maintaining your well being. One of the things I've enjoyed the most from my entrepreneurial journey is the vast amount of knowledge and experience I've accumulated over the years. Every founder I talk to equates 1 year of entrepreneurship with at least 5 years of high quality employment experience. I completely agree with that stance. The well rounded and diverse business knowledge you build as a business owner is something that an employee never experiences, regardless of the company they work for. Here's a final thought: entrepreneurship is a marathon, not a sprint. The goal isn't to build a successful business, it's to build one that doesn't come at the cost of your mental and physical health. To quote a successful founder that I've had the pleasure of working with, the best business decisions I've made came from a clear, well-rested mind, not from pushing myself to exhaustion. I'd love to hear about your experiences with the challenges of entrepreneurship. Share your thoughts in the comments or reach out to me directly. I'll be happy to have a chat. And that's all I have for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to follow the podcast to stay up to date on future episodes. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review wherever you get your podcasts. This will help me spread the word about organized chaos and keep the show going. If you have any questions or topics you'd like to suggest for the show, please send me an email to hello@organizedchaos.fyi. For more content and resources, make sure to check out the website at organizedchaos.fyi. See you on the next one.